It is the glory of God to conceal a matter. To search it out is the glory of kings. This is the Message to Kings podcast.
Episode 320, The Parable of the Shrewd Manager, or the Unjust Manager. Psalm 18:25. To the faithful, you show yourself faithful. To the blameless, you show yourself blameless. To the pure, you show yourself pure. But to the devious, or the shrewd, you show yourself shrewd. This is actually the secret sauce to understanding Jesus's parable of the shrewd manager, because in Psalm 18 it says, to the shrewd you show yourself shrewd, while just above it says, to the faithful you are faithful, to the blameless you are faithful, to the pure you are pure. Parable is written to describe what happens with the shrewd people in the business world, or shrewd people in the political realm, or anywhere. But it's also to teach us a lesson. But not just that, it's one of the hardest verses, statements, parables that Jesus teaches in everything that he says. And there's some, and a lot of it is because we don't understand. If you're a believer, you shouldn't understand what is pure, what is not faithful, blameless, and pure. But unfortunately, we live in a fallen world, and Jesus has to teach us or remind us what the fallen do. And the fallen are the people like the shrewd manager. Here we go. Let's just dive right in. Luke 16. Jesus told his disciples there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, "What is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be my manager any longer." The manager said to himself, "What shall I do? My master's taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do for myself. When I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses. This is what I'm going to do." So he called in each of his master's debtors. He asked the first, "How much do you owe me?" 800 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager said, "Take your bill, sit down quickly, make it 400. Then he asked the second one, "How much do you owe?" 1,000 bushels of wheat. He told him, "Take your bill, make it 800. The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you'll be welcomed into eternal dwellings." That last phrase is a hard one. It really is. But let's go down the road of understanding what's going on here. And first, we got to put ourselves in the setting. Tax collectors of the day. Now, first, this is a commercial guy. This is a high-level commercial property manager. He's dealing with 800 gallons of olive oil. He's dealing with, this is market level. This is grocery level. This is high stakes business, basically. And we're dealing at distributorship level, if you want to put it that way. Nothing small. This isn't like, give me a gallon, right? Like it's industrial, if you want to put it in a current terms. So this is scale, right? Now, put yourself in the context of ancient Rome, or this Judean time period, okay? The Roman taxation was basically, they send out they put a quote on a region. Say Judea, we need, 20 talents a month. I just made that number up. go collect it. And they assign all the tax collectors in all their regions, and we have to go get our 20 talents. Um, whatever region, whatever that number would, maybe it's 200 talents, whatever it is. Now, if the tax collectors, and say this specific region is supposed to get 20 talents, okay? If the tax collectors collect 22 talents, the tax collectors keep 2. If the tax collectors collect 40 talents, they collect 20. Above and beyond, and however they do it, the Romans don't care. That's their cut. Now, put yourself in the context of this businessman. He's a sales guy, but he's also a business owner of this, market enterprise that this guy has. Where now he's going to lose his job. He's probably stealing, but he's probably stealing at a rate that's very comparable to all of the others in his industry. Now, the owner of the business is going to get rid of him. It's abundantly clear he's going to get fired. Going to get fired. Doesn't say he actually gets fired. He's going to get fired. When he says, tell me an accounting of basically what you're doing. Okay, goes to the first guy. 800 gallons of olive oil. That's a crazy amount of olive oil. Take your bill, sit down, make it 400. He dropped it in half what was owed. Now, we don't know how much his markup was as the quote unquote tax collector, because that was the model business unit that was being used at the time. Perhaps this guy who was the steward of the owner's business doubled the price so that he could make money. Now, what if he half the price and now he gives it back? The owner of the business still makes the same amount of money. While it looks like he's stealing them and he's getting commended for it, he's not. He's dropping his own cut to keep his job. And also, he's building and keeping a relationship with this other guy. He's using his influence in business. In fact, he's actually doing it. He's working for free, put it that way. Now, perhaps the markup is not 100% on the second product, which is bushels of wheat. He goes from 1,000 bushels to 800, right? So he drops it 20%. Now, knowing and understanding retail accounting, that's nothing, right? Like that's probably just a normal markup, right? Dropping at 20% is just a discount. So the second one doesn't bother me. The first one is a bit much. It makes me realize and dig and understand that he's losing his cut. And this 20% on the other guy, maybe it's a different cut based upon the type of commodity, right? So that's kind of how it works. So the fact that he's commended tells me that the owner of the business has discovered a couple things through this. One, that he is shrewd. He manages his business and he gets the sale done, quote unquote, sales and collection. And perhaps cash flow is important to this guy, not as much about, making the books look good or having, trickling debtors and, end of year, whatever. He wants cash, right? He wants money now. He wants his bushels of wheat and olive oil right now. He's got to keep it flowing, and he's committed for it. And he's also probably committed for the fact that not only does this steward get the job done, but he also does have a relationship, and he is preferred by these guys. And there's an element of understanding business and competition too. This guy who has the relationship with these, I don't want to say factories, but farms, collective farms that are producing all of these goods. Do you really want to get rid of him and go get someone else who's going to maintain that relationship when he could technically go somewhere else and take and buy from these collective large businesses for another person, for another owner, he could actually lose out by getting rid of this guy because of his relationship, because it has power and influence, right? There is a measure of leverage, there's a measure of authority, uh, of human capital, um, of beyond just productivity and numbers and money. There's more to the business that's going on here, that's being mentioned. So when he commends them, we have to understand the context of the day. And then we get to Jesus's statement, which makes you still read it every time and just say, I understand it more and more, but you have to reevaluate it again, as a believer, because if you are pure and you are blameless, and you are righteous through Jesus Christ, it is hard to understand. Because you've got, if you're in the world and you're operating in the business of the world, you've got to understand the world, right? So here's what Jesus says: for the people of the world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you'll be welcomed into eternal dwellings. So, put it in very simple terms. If you love people more than money, there'll be a reward with people in heaven. It's not exactly what it says, but it's an easy way to understand it, right? Put it this way: if you honor people in business and you show them Christ-like behavior in business, you may just see them one day in heaven. And they may even welcome you in heaven, for you were the one who brought them the good news in the business world. And because you, as a believer, not putting money first, go into a business situation and put people and God first, you reveal the kingdom of heaven in the business world instead of the opposite. So we have to be shrewd, but we can also bring the light. He shows himself pure to those who are pure, blameless to those who are blameless, but shrewd to those who are shrewd. I remember a couple times where I had to push back in the business world, for things they've required of me, that weren't really related to business, um, or asked to take, some type of, um, agree to some kind of program that didn't seem right in my heart or something. And multiple times, resisted, knowing I was doing the right thing, instead of following the crowd. I was later rewarded for it. Um, it's not always the case, but you must put God first, and you must put people over money. Luke 16:10. Whoever can be trusted with very little can be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you've not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own? No servant can serve two masters. Either will hate the one and love the other. You'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. And to think that as a Christian, we can't have wealth. Look at King David. Wealth never destroyed him. Now, he almost destroyed himself through pride and adultery and murder, but never money. When he died, he had, I think we did a podcast on it, anywhere from $6 to $10 billion in gold, waiting for Solomon to build the temple. There are abundant kings, abundant people who have been ridiculously prosperous. But in all cases, those are the ones, the biblical ones, who actually didn't put money first. And those are the ones who finish well. And of course, there's unrighteous ones, who died with plenty. But I'm just talking about the righteous ones. There's examples all through the Bible of people being blessed who stayed the course. But it's because they didn't worship money. We must be shrewd. We must understand the world and how it operates. And unfortunately, though we live in the kingdom of heaven as believers, we do live in a world that is fallen, and it operates on a different currency and a different understanding of right and wrong. So what I want to do to end this episode is to pray for believers to basically have wisdom, to have greater discernment, to have understanding, to have the ability to operate in the world, though they're not of this world, to have wisdom, discernment, obviously favor and great, power to operate in authority and prayer, and wisdom of creativity, and the ability to walk in God's divine anointing, whatever our calling is. So let me just pray that. Psalm 18:25. To the faithful, you show yourself faithful. To the blameless, you show yourself blameless. To the pure, you show yourself pure. But to the shrewd, you show yourself shrewd. God, I just pray you give us wisdom. You give us knowledge. You give us insight. You give us understanding to operate in this world, to succeed in business. Give us your ability to handle those who are shrewd, to understand what motivates and what triggers people, and let us bring value to all of those we work with. Give us creative ideas. Give us insight and favor. And let us operate in your love and your power and in your authority and prayer, God. Bless us, grow us, help us to understand exactly what Jesus is saying right here. In Jesus' name. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Message to Kings. Feel free to check out the website, messagetokings.com, or if you want to chat, email us at messagetokings@gmail.com.